me just check to see that you guys can all hear me well enough. Josie, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then Lisa, I've got Lisa in here twice, so you might have two computers signed in, Lisa. Can you hear me? How about that one, Lisa? Can you hear me? All right, I'll come back to you in a minute. Shannon, can you hear me? Okay, and how about Terry? Terry, can you hear me? All right, so maybe we have some people who are in listen-only mode, and that's okay. If you've attended one of our webinars before, you will know that there is a little icon to raise your hand, and I should be able to see that and respond if the conversation's only one way, if that'll work. There's also a place where you can post a question, kind of like the chat, and I can answer questions that way as well. All right, so this webinar is also going to be recorded. So once we're finished with the webinar, you will get an email link back to the recording, so you can review this if you have to drop out early or if you didn't get all your questions answered. Our plan today is to go through the stock Retail Pro reports for version 9 and then dip a little bit into what we at Big Hairy Dog have that adds value on top of that. I did look at the list, and I noticed that some of you are people that are already on V9. Some of you are just doing some research, evidently considering upgrading, and some of you are new to BHD, and some of you are have been around a while. All right, so I will try to proceed here. I'll try to pause and give you time to ask questions, whether you have to raise your hand or drop into the chat room. And hopefully we'll get a lot of information disseminated and get some questions answered for you along the way. All right, so to begin, right, Retail Pro 9, okay, has a separate executable that runs the reports. So any of you that came from version 8, there was an icon inside version 8 where you clicked on that and it actually started a program that could get you to reports. Okay, and in version 9, there isn't anything that you access from inside Retail Pro. You do that from outside. So you'll have an icon on your desktop down here in the corner, Retail Pro 9 reports. Okay, and when you execute or launch that, you log in just like you would any of your Retail Pro applications. I'm going to start logging in with the sysadmin because there are some things that a sysadmin can do in the reports that not everyone can do, and we'll discuss that as we go so that you know what your capabilities are in here. So first thing about the version 9 interface here is there's a few options that you set up when you begin, and these options apply to anyone who uses Retail Pro at this installation. So if you're at a main, right, at a warehouse location or the primary store, you have a database that sits on your WS1 or your server, and the reports executable accesses that database. And so what I'm about to show you applies to every workstation in your what we call local group. So if you have a warehouse where you have 4 or 5 Retail Pro workstations, some of them do receiving and some of them are buyers and some of them are, you know, accounting people. Everybody uses the same executable, okay? And everyone, okay, when we look at their options folder here under workstation preferences, okay, all of the installations of the Retail Pro reports for a local group of computers, i.e. a store or a warehouse, okay, has to uses the same set of workstation preferences. So this is a little different than workstation preferences in regular Retail Pro. Okay, so that's why I point this out and make sure that I emphasize what's going on here. Okay, so a couple of things if you install this with one of our techs or one of our trainers, they will go through this setup. We're just filling in this blank here for you in case you ever have to set it up by yourself. All right, so under setup, okay, the only thing that's important here is that this be pointed at the Retail Pro database. This comes by default, so you should not have to change anything in here. Okay. Under appearance in general, this setting right here, display report filter, by default comes out that way. Okay, and what this is the filter criteria for the report. So if you run a report and you select a date range, or if you select just a store in the header of the document, or the footer, if that's where you choose to put it, that's where the filter parameters that you've selected for that specific report will print out, so you know what date range is involved in the report, or what store, or what criteria you've excluded. So generally we put it on the first page, so it's in the header of the first page of the document, and then you know just by looking at the top of the document what criteria are included in the report. All right, so we help or make sure that people have that set. And then the other thing that's important, which you might change from time to time, is under printing preferences. Here, this printer name, this is the default printer for everybody who uses reports in your local group. So if you have a store 1 and a store 2, this can be set differently because you might have a different report printer. But every workstation that's attached to store 2 is going to be pointed by default at the same printer. So I'm just going to pick one of these here that's an actual printer that I can see. All right. The other thing that you want to make sure is checked is this last checkbox right here for print range. Out of the box, this comes unchecked. Don't know why. But unless you check that, you wouldn't be able to just print the first page or just print the last page of the report. All right, so once these are set, unless you have to replace your printer, you're pretty much set. All right, so you're okay, you're ready to run reports. All right, and so all the reports can be found over here under this reports icon, way over here on the left. All right, so when I click on that, I get a menu. All right, and so if you come from version 8, okay, then you're familiar with these categories. So I'm going to briefly describe them for those of you who are not coming from version 8. Going from top to bottom, the audit reports, if I click on this plus right here, there's a small handful of reports. This is not accounting audit. This is a process audit. So this audit report here, user account, would report who logged in and when. So they are just for maybe loss prevention purposes or any of those kinds of things where you're trying to figure out who's doing what and how often. All right, so we usually don't spend a lot of time on these. They're not used that often. Okay, but when people want to know, how, whether their employee overrides are being used and things like that, this is the way to report those. Right. Most of your actual merchandising report or any accounting info that you're going to get, sales, on hand, everything else is contained in the other sections here. The sections that come with Retail Pro, okay, are journals, lists, merchandise, and summary. All right, and so those are rough categories of reports that have a similar purpose. We're going to start with something simple. right? So if I hit the plus next to list right here, I get the list here in the middle. Okay, hopefully you can see that better than on the, I don't know how, whether your screen will be small. We'll try to make that a little bigger. Hopefully be easier for you to see. And then let me undock. Oh, I need to shrink this. Let's see. Okay, 1 second. I'm trying to get my webinar screen out of the way here. View. Okay, so I've hidden my control panel, so hopefully if you guys have questions or chat, I will still be able to see it, and that will allow me to see everything on my screen. Okay, so lists. These are not really reports per se. They're a list, right? So a list of my employees with part of their information, a list of my vendors with address information. And these are here because some people still want the ability to print all that out, take it with them, print it out, take it with them to market or whatever. Okay. While on the subject of taking things somewhere, all of the reports, no matter what category, can be printed, can be exported to Excel if you have Excel on this computer. Okay, exported to PDF. So anything that you see here that you can produce. Okay, like we'll do a vendor list here real quick. I have a really short data set here, so it makes things run really fast. Right, so I have like 2 vendors, and here's the attendant information. But running this, you can see the ribbon across the top here that tells me what I can do once I run the report, right? And so print, obviously, if you wanted to print it, defaults to the printer that we set in our options. You could change it if you want to direct it to a different printer and print just the first page, etc. Right? So pretty standard functions there, right? Export, here's the variety of things you can export this printout to, right? So Word, PDF, excuse me, HTML page if you so desire, Excel with the formatting, Excel text only, that's without the formatting. And we'll be doing a little bit of this later so you can see what it actually does. So exporting, you can save the report as a Crystal report, so you can open it in Crystal, not used very often. You can use the Finder button here to find a string inside the report. We'll do that a little bit later. Refresh, go get the data again, is what that means, and close. So we'll go through some of these a little bit later, but just to point out that any of these reports, you can do all of these: print, export, search, and that all comes standard with this, with the interface, right? So, and just to point out, this is a Crystal report reader, right, or viewer. And so it doesn't have any capabilities to do any editing of the report itself, but allows you to view the reports, run the reports, allows the reports to pull data. Okay, so these are pretty standard type things. There's a couple of things: customer store credit and last sale date. That's could be of interest that you run from time to time. But most of these are just static information, no merchandising involved, nothing like that. All right, so the next level up from that, I'm going to click on this and close the list, okay, are the summary reports, right? So if I open the summary reports, you see a huge list of summary reports. And these are reports that come with Retail Pro, again, and they're summarizing at various levels of detail one, what we call data element, right? And the data element can be sales, which is most commonly here. It can be inventory on hand. It can be receiving. It can be adjustments, if you see that at the top, right? It can be purchase orders, summarize my open order. So what you don't see here is anything where you want to see where you would get sales and on hand on the same report. What you don't see here is anything where you can get more than one date range, right? So you can't see this year versus last year in sales. So one data element, and if you look at the sales list here, you've got sales by associate, several different versions, sales by customer, several different versions, sales by department, sales by item, sales by hour, sales by month, on and on and on and on. So all of these sales reports report sales, all right, either at the item or the style level or the department level or the vendor level. And what you see is what you get basically when you look at the title. All right, so I'm just going to run a couple of these really quick so you can see how the filters and that kind of thing work. And so first of all, this is one of my my go-tos with people who are first learning the reports, sales monthly summary. Right, so when you run a report, you pick it from the list, right, highlight it, and then you're going to click this run button over here on the side. All right, and so when you click the run button, it brings up what we call filters. Okay, if you're familiar with this, if you're not new to Retail Pro, you know what a filter is, and you can select the parameters that you want to run this report for. So you could specify a year here by using your dynamic date to say I want 12 months starting 14 months ago. That's going to give you year to date. I'm not going to, my data on here is pretty thin, so I'm not going to actually use that kind of filter. You can specify a single store, you can do just a department, just a vendor, etc. So that's the way the filters work, right? You get to fill them in on the fly when you request the report. Okay, I'm going to just run this wide open so you can see what it does. All right, so this report is a stock report that comes from Retail Pro, and what it does is show you month by month by month, units sold, extended price. So this is after discount, original price is before discount. Shows you the discount percentage, how many dollars that discount was, your margin percentage, and the cost. So really handy report to look at. Total company, sales, month by month by month by month. Okay, so this data set goes back at least a year. So I can see from January, I didn't have any data in January here, but there's my February compared to this February, and like I said, you can't see two date ranges side by side, okay, but this gives you a little bit of how have I done month to month on a year. Okay. And another thing that is a feature of the version 9 reports is we do have some ability to graph things, pie charts, bar graphs, line graphs, and this one you can see is percent of total sales for quantity and for amount side by side. So it's kind of interesting to see whatever this in June, right? So the units were a bigger percentage than the dollars in June. So we're selling a lot of lower priced items, just a a yardstick type of thing. So this is typical of what a Retail Pro summary looks like, right? The whatever you see in the title, right? That's probably the level of detail that you're going to get, right? So monthly summary. If I ran this vendor summary, I'm going to get vendor, 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 right? Similar info to what we just saw. I'm going to run that wide open really quick, just so you can see. Okay, so vendor, 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 quantity sold, original price, discount percent, extended price. So basically the same information, but summarized by vendor. Okay, no pretty graphs on this one. I guess we decided we didn't want any pretty graphs on this one. Okay, so summary, and there's large variety of reports. Those of you who track associate performance, there are associate summary reports with and without commission attached if you're using the BHD or the Retail Pro commission structure. All right, those can be of interest, and on hand, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So reports in the summary section, one data element and one date range for the most part. All right. So the next section up is journals. Right. Journals are lists of documents or lists of transactions. Okay. So with a summary, right, if I say show me vendor, right, sales by vendor, I get one line, and it shows me how much I sold. It shows me non-document related data, right? So if I needed to know something with transaction numbers and sales dates attached to it, then I have to use a journal, because the sales date is a transaction field, right? It's on the transaction. In the inventory master, we don't keep the only thing we keep in there is like a last sold date and a first sold date. So if you need to know which day a specific item was sold on, then you need a journal type of a report. So these are transaction-based, right? If I look at a receipt journal, we'll look at it with the detail. This is kind of messy, but I'm not sure. Let's look at year to date. Okay. All right, I got somebody with a question. Let me try to answer that here. Is there a report for a list of who sold a particular item or of a particular associate sold per date? The answer is yes. Okay, so let me try to dig one of those out here. Who sold a particular item and what particular sold per date? Okay, so what you're asking, okay, I believe, okay, is, let's minimize that, is for some kind of journal where you can either filter or report the cashier or the associate on the report. Okay, so this is a receipt journal, and basically this is everything, right? What you sold. You could even have who you sold it to on here. You could have, you can have a, this shows you how it was tendered, right? So here in the dark gray, if you can see that, that was a split tender. This was a credit card. This was a check. So this is the list of the transactions with the transaction information. There's the store, the receipt number, the receipt date, even the time. What you sold is under this line right here, right? So you sold multiple things, like down here under transaction 1, 2, 3, right? We've got 2 lines, 2 items, whether or not you took a discount, on and on and on and on. So all of the details come in this report. Now, to answer your question, okay, there might need to be, let's see, let's look at this right here, associate summary by item. Okay, so let me just run this wide open so that you can see what's on here. All right, so what this report does is show who the person was that sold it, what they sold, what transaction number is right there. I believe there is a version of this that actually has the date on it, okay, but some report like this would be pretty close to what you're asking, and there are some modifications that I'm going to show you in a little bit that may have exactly what you're looking for. Okay, so if if you don't see that in the webinar here, you can send an email in, okay, and one of us will help you find exactly what you're looking for if it exists. Okay. So that's a summary report because it reports one data element, sales, right, and item by item by item. Okay, and if I go back to journals, right, you can see this is a really small list, right, and there's not a lot of different flavors of these that come with Retail Pro, but we have several in our custom directory, which I'll show you, and we'll get to that before the end of this webinar. So for those of you who do any kind of special orders, layaways, where you take deposits, special orders, anything like that, or if you're interfaced to the web and you get your web orders via a sales order, so these reports and different permutations of those are what's going to help you monitor whether those orders are getting fulfilled, what's still open, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so those are journals because they're document-based. So a sales order is a document, and you need to look through those documents and report things where they're outstanding past a certain date, right? Or show me anything where I've taken a deposit and we haven't delivered the merchandise, type of thing. Show me anything where I've taken an order, unfilled SO journal, and haven't delivered. Let me see if I've got anything in here. I'm not sure I've got anything at all in here, but yeah, I have a few things. All right, so if you have placed an order and we have not yet delivered it, so here's the order quantity. This first order here, they've ordered 9. We haven't sent them any. We still owe them 9. So where the heck are we? This was last year, right? So obviously this is old data, but this can help you monitor whether or not you've delivered on SOs. Okay, handy dandy little thing up here at the top that gives you like a quick summary, right, of what's still outstanding. How many SOs, right, and how much money do we have there that we still owe people. Okay, so journals. Okay, and then the other section that we haven't explored yet that comes with the Retail Pro is merchandise. All right, so merchandise reports that come from Retail Pro can be 2 date ranges, right? So you look here, there's some sales here in the middle that come within the title, last 7 days, this year versus last year type of thing, and they come in several flavors. This one is by department. There's an item version. Oh, that's receiving, sorry. There's an item version right here, right? And comes in a department flavor and a vendor flavor, and these have suggested date ranges, right? So if I take this one, the sales by item this year versus last year, and I scroll all the way down here to the bottom, right, it has these filled in as a default in the filter, okay? But if I wanted to run this for a different time frame, I can just come down here and change this, right? So if I said I wanted to run, a month in 15 months ago, I'm not sure if this is actually going to pull any data, okay? And I wanted to run year to date this year, and just see what happens, right? I'll just show you what the layout of this report actually is. Okay, so this report, this year is the first date range. Last year is the second date range. So this terminology, or the labels on here are fixed. So we should have filter criteria on this, and we don't. It tells me what the address is, so I'll have to go back and look at that. Okay, but side by side, this year, last year, quantity, price, extended price, last year, this year price, last year price. This is the unit price, looks like, and this is the extension. All right, cost and margin. Okay. All right, so the date range reports that come with Retail Pro work roughly that way. You're not stuck with the date range that's here. You can change this when you run it. Okay, so I'm going to go down here to the last 6 months just to prove a point, right? And if you look all the way down at the bottom, all right, that's what's filled in. Okay, now I'm going to show you why that's filled in and what you can do about it if you want to change that so that it's permanently something different. Right, so these are filter criteria that are automatically saved. Right, so if I highlight this report right here and go down to filters, okay, I get a screen that looks like this. Okay, these are all the filter elements that are in the file. Okay, and if I click over here on criteria, over here on the right, okay, I'm going to see a list of the filter criteria that are saved. Okay, and you can see there in the middle, okay, this is the date range, right, that's set dynamically here. Okay, so show me 6 months starting 18 months ago, okay, for that one. Okay, and then this year, it's showing 6 months starting last month, right? So it cuts off this month. So if you wanted to change this to a, last 4 months, right, you could just change these and save them, okay? And then it would be, that would be the default. So let's say 4. And then I would need to make this 14. All right, and so changing that right there, okay, save up at the top. The next time I run the report, that's what's going to be in the defaults. All right, so if I click on reports, go back to merchandise, go back to my 6 months by style. Okay, now I could probably even change this title if I wanted to. We'll talk about that, but now my default, right, okay, is the last 4 months, okay, instead of what we had in there before. All right, so that's just a little bit lesson about what these filters are about. Some of the reports out of the box come with filters already set. Most do not. Okay, and so if you want to change the filters, you can, and you save them. And if you can set these so that you don't have to change anything or answer any questions, then you can do what we call automating the reports into groups, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, so gotten through quite a bit of stuff, right? So let's see if there's anybody needs any other questions besides Josie, right? So I'll give you a couple of seconds to take a breath and see if there's any questions that occurs to anybody at this point. Okay, so you can raise your hand or drop into the chat room, any of those things that you wish. All right. All right, doesn't look like there are any questions. So I'm going to minimize my control panel back again. Okay, so what we try to do from here, okay, is show you some of the things that are capable beyond the basics, right? So what I've showed you up to this point comes with Retail Pro, and you have some limited capability to program filters, right? Set filters for the stock reports if they exist. Okay, and one of the advantages to doing setting a filter, for instance, let me see which reports I've got in here. Associate summary. Okay, so let's go back to, there is a report called a Sales Associate Summary. So that's this report, this one right here. Okay, and let's say every month I want to run this report for the previous month, and and I just want to push one button and have it go. I don't want to have to think about it. So what I need to do is I need to go into the filters for the associate summary. So I'm in filters, I'm in the associate summary. Okay, sorry, I've got some hands up here. Let me try to answer those questions here. Okay, so where's the questions? Okay, so I see Josie's question. I'm looking for, okay, little, all right, so Carrie, you had a question? Well, let me try to unmute you here. Can you hear me, Terry? All right. So Terry, if you can drop your question into the questions or the chat, I'll try to answer it. Okay, so Terry's asking about a paid out report. And so yes, there is a paid out report in the custom area. So it's not part of the stock, but I'll show you that as soon as we get into the custom area. Okay, and then Josie and Lisa. Here we go. Okay, is there a way to exclude a word in description report, or in description 1 for reports? Okay, so that's Lisa's question. So what we can do is look at this. Okay, so let me come back to this. We'll go back to reports. All right, so in the filters, right, if you're saying we want to go and let's say we want to do an item summary, but we don't want to have a specific description listed in here. So generally speaking, you know, if for some of these fields you can see an exclusion, right? The exclusion only works for things where you can pick from a list, like so this clerk name, right? I could pick Mary, for instance, and I could exclude Mary. Okay, so description 1 in version 8, there used to be, let me clear this, in description 8 there used to be a tilde, right? So tilde, and you could put that, right, and that would mean don't show me anything with the word test in it. Okay, and that same thing does not work in the report for those description fields where there is a where there's not a pull from a list, right? So for instance, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say I want to exclude maybe the word stretch. Okay, so if I go back in here, run this and say exclude STRETCH. Right, I'm still getting the stretches. So in the description 1, there's not a way to easily exclude those items. You need to find another way to do it. Okay, and so if there's some reports that you're familiar with that where you need to do exclusions like that, usually what people do is use a UDF field or something like that to do that, but if you want, we can review that with you privately if you're looking for tips and tricks to deal with that. Okay. Yeah, okay. So, exclude a word, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so, all right. So, I'm going to go back to my little filter thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about automating reports. I need to be on my associate summary, right? And so criteria. The scenario I outlined here is I want this associate summary report to print for the previous month, and I want to be able to run it like on the 1st of the month, the next month, or the 5th or whatever, and have the information for just that month. So the first thing that you want to do is set your filter, right, so that when you run it, it defaults to 1 month starting 1 month ago, right? So that's dynamic date would give you this date range. So as long as you run that during the month of March, right, you get that month. Now, there's other things in here that you could set. You could say, you know, I need to exclude certain DCSs or any of that kind of stuff. If you're looking at an associate summary and you want just your your one section of your merchandise, you can do that in this and save it, right? So we're just going to go, really broad here, right? So I've created a default filter for my associate summary report. So if I go to the summary section and I click this, right, when I click run, okay, I'm not going to have to answer any questions to get a report for last month, right? So it automatically fills that in, okay? And if I can do that on one click, then I can have this report automated. Okay, so this is a really boring report, but we get the drift. And why am I not getting my filter criteria? Hang on just a second here. I got my filter criteria set to none, first page. All right. All right, so I'm going to go back to that report and show you what I just turned on. We talked about this at the head of the thing, or of the webinar. And all right, so here, right, where it says filter criteria, that's how I know what date range I've run the report for. Because most of the time those filter criteria are not actually, the values are not actually on the report. So you need to know, did I run it for store 1, what date range, etc. Okay, so now that I've set the filter and I've tested it to make sure that it actually runs with one click, okay, I can add it to a report group. So down here in the lower left, you see groups. Okay, and I already have a group set up here, right? So if you're going to make multiple groups, okay, so monthly, right? I've set a monthly group here, and I've added 2 reports to it. Okay, so sales associate summary, right, is part of the summary groups, right? So because this thing is above the line, that's part of my group. So if I wanted to add something else to it, I find it here, I double-click it, puts it above the line, and that's automatically added to my report group. Okay, so I had associate summary on here, and I had a journal, right, a sales receipt journal, right? And so once those 2 things are added to my group, okay, all I have to do to make them run, okay, is to highlight monthly group and hit group run. I got a question. Hang on a sec. Yes, it stays in the main list, right? So all we're doing here, okay, is pulling something or selecting something from the list to say go run this list, right? So it doesn't disappear from anywhere. It's just making a list so that when I highlight monthly and I hit group run, okay, basically it's just going to run the reports and yuck them out to the screen with whatever filter parameters I've saved, right? And so it runs them all, puts them all out on the screen, and then you can do what you want with them, either print them, PDF them, or whatever. Okay, so the key to this is you saw I didn't have to fill in any filters, right? So if you need something where you can pre-program the filters, then you click on it, right, and it just runs. Then you can set it up for a group, and it runs them all. Okay, and then you can page through them one at a time and look at them. They do not auto print in the group, Basically, they just auto-display, and then you choose what you want to do with them. Okay, so the on-hand report, because the on-hand report is just what I have on hand right this minute, right? I can set this up in the report group, and I can, run it on Monday morning if I need to know what I have on hand as of the end of the week. Okay. The associate summary, because this has got a date range programmed into it, it's automatically going to run the a month before, because that's how I've got it set. This receipt journal, I didn't have anything set up in that, so that's probably running everything for the, for the system. And so this is one way that you can have things kind of pre-programmed, ready for you to go. And so I know, buyers that use these, accounting people that use these, and as long as you can set all your parameters in the filter for a specific report, okay, like if I went up to the journals and went here, right, and said I want this journal to be the same as my associate summary, right, I want it for 1 month, starting 1 month ago, right, and I save that, okay, then when I run it, that's what I'll get. Okay, so there's no change in the filters, you just click the button and it runs. All right, so when we get this far, then a lot of people will ask, so can I have that automatically triggered? Okay, and the answer is yes, there's a way to do that. It's not part of what Retail Pro does, but essentially you can create what we call a batch file that runs from the Windows scheduler, right? So I'm just going to bring that up real quick. We're just going to touch on this. I'm not going to by any means expect that you're going to know how to do this just from what I'm showing you here, but the Windows Task Scheduler has, oh well, somebody broke this. Okay, that's just awesome. Okay. All right, so I can't show you that Windows Task Scheduler. Let me see if I can show you mine. And I don't have anything in my task scheduler that I can show you either. Okay, well, let me just do this then. Give me 1 second here. Come on. Let's go. All right, so everything's being really slow all of a sudden. Here we go. Data. Okay. All right, let's see. Don't have that. All right, so I don't have anything that I can show you really quick. Let's see if I can get something out of here. Nope. How about in here? Nope. All right, sorry, I can't show you anything because my task scheduler is corrupted on my demo machine. However, if you're interested in automatically scheduling reports, we can help you build a batch file that will run the reports. We also have at our disposal a way that we can automatically set the system to email those reports either in PDF or Excel. Okay, so if this is something that you are interested in, contact our service department and they can get you set up with a most likely a trainer to make sure that you know how to set this up. We could set it up for you, but usually we need to go through a little bit of training and evaluate what you actually want before we set it up. Okay, so that is possible to automatically run reports as long as you can set up the report with a filter so that you don't have to answer any questions, then you can automate it. And then we have some things some tools that we can provide to you that would allow you to email these to you on a regular basis. Okay, so sorry about not being able to show you that, but please do inquire if you're interested in getting that set up on your computers. Okay, so beyond the Retail Pro stock reports, okay, we here at BHD, have been dealing with version 9 reports for a while now, and there were just some bases that the Retail Pro reports did not cover. So we have the ability to take the reports, if we want, to start with the Retail Pro stock report, use Crystal Reports Writer, which is a third-party product that you can buy or we can sell it to you. You can download a 30-day demo version, okay, if you want to try this yourself. But essentially, this is a reports writer program that we use. And usually what we do is we start with an existing report. So what I was going to do here is I was going to go to that sales associate summary, okay, and show you associate summary, open. Okay, so this is what this report looks like in Crystal Reports Writer. Okay, so you can see, the fields. These are data fields that we're pulling out of the SQL database. Okay, here's the bar charts, right, that we were talking about. And so, other than pre-programming the filters, okay, anything that you would change on a version 9 report would have to be done with a Crystal Reports Writer or something like it. So if you're familiar with tools like this and you want to try things yourself, with a little bit of training we can get you started. If there's something that you want done to an existing report, then you can ask us to do it for you. And if we can't actually do it in Crystal, we also have a reports writer, a programmer, who can build custom reports for us, and we can give you a quote on what that would cost if you're looking for something very specific. For the most part, okay, the reports that you see in the custom directory, okay, and if you have been with us for a while in version 9, you may have a list of reports already in your custom directory. If you haven't been with us or you're not on V9 yet, okay, these reports are reports that we provide to you in V9, basically, free of charge. If you don't have them installed already, then all it costs is the tech time to do it. Takes 15, 20 minutes to actually get it done and show you how to use it. So for very little startup cost, these reports can be made available to you if you don't have them already. All right, so there's like 70-something of these reports, and a lot of them are just different ways of looking at the same thing at different levels of detail, right? So if I look at the this year, last year, oops, let me get back into reports, sorry. If I look at this list, okay, the this year, last year reports are at the item level or the vendor level or the department level or at the DCS level, right? So there's a lot of reports here, but a lot of them are just the same report at different levels of detail. Okay, so we try to put them all together. So if you're looking for a particular format and you need a different level of detail, you don't have to hunt all over. All right. When we were, and I think Josie had asked about associate by date by invoice, particularly, and so that is probably one of these guys in here. Let's see, commissions, might be, yeah, maybe not. Might be a journal, right? So journal, no details, item details, detail customer. Yeah, this one might be what you're looking for. Let me just run it really quick and see what's on it. So if I look at this, the one thing that the stock journal doesn't have is the actual customer name on the report, and so that was something that a lot of our high service people like, right? And so this one has the customer added to it. It also has, who sold it, what date it was, a receipt number, etc. What you don't see here, right, is how it was paid for, right? What the receipt total was with tax and everything, and this one didn't have discounts on it. So we made some sacrifices to give you some different information, who bought something and who sold it to them and when. Okay, so this might fall into the category of what you're interested in, Josie, and there's other flavors of that report. So if you have version 9 reports already and you don't have the custom stuff and you want that specific capability, just shoot us an email and we'll find it for you. All right, and so Terry had asked me about paid out reports. All right, so there are some new reports that Terry, I don't think we had the last time I talked to you. Disbursements by store. So I think what we're looking for is one of these guys, right? Can't remember how much stuff we put in, but if those of you who may not be familiar, there is a paid out function, paid out and a paid in function in version 9. And you have the ability to put a reason code on it, and you have the ability to put a comment on it. And so getting that info out of Retail Pro to get it into accounting to account for all the different reasons, a report like this might be something that that is necessary. So Terry, if this looks like something that would fit your need, right? Shoot me an email, okay, and I'll find a couple minutes to get it dropped in on your system. This is by store, by date, and totals it up by type. Okay, so hopefully that's close enough to what you're looking for. If it's not close enough, we'll get it. We'll get it closer. Okay, so another couple of things that are in here that didn't come with Retail Pro out of the box, okay, are they weren't real good on top sellers, right? So we have added a couple of bestsellers. This is an item level bestseller, so comes by price, comes by units, because those are two different things, right? Created date. This is too small. I'm not sure if I'm actually going to get anything here for year to date. We've been doing a little bit, so let's see. Yeah, a little bit. Okay, so bestsellers, right, sorted by the actual dollars taken in by the, paid for by the customer. So ranking these in by price, and then there's also ranking by units, right? So bestsellers, another thing that there was one or two, I think, in the sales, and they did just like the top 25. So these will rank everything, no matter how far down they go. And if you just want the top 25, you could just print the first page. Okay, so another couple of things that are newer in our custom reports. Okay, where is cashier security? All right, well, I'm not finding that on here, so let's go to my backup here. All right, so one of the things that we've just come up new with is this cashier security report. right? So any of you, particularly if you're multi-store and you're not in the stores all the time, you might be interested in how many times your cashiers are doing certain things, like how many times are they opening the drawer. You do have a record, right, when they pop the drawer, if they hit the pop drawer button. But do you have a person or a store that maybe pops the drawer more often than everybody else? There might be a problem there. This also shows number of voids and some percent to total information. So what this is designed to do is to show you where there might be cashiers that are doing something out of the ordinary, right? How many returns are they doing? So the sysadmin person is doing all the returns here in SFO, and we would just assume that that sysadmin is the manager, but maybe it's just because the people in the store, right, they might get their commissions dinged if they take a return, so they put it all under sysadmin, right? So things like this are easy to spot when you're using a report like this. Okay, this is again one of the relatively new ones that we've put out and designed for spotting loss prevention type problems. Okay, so this is an example of something that people ask us for. When we create it, we add it to the offering for everybody to see. Okay, so these reports, all the ones that are here under the custom, all those fall into that category. Some of them are multi-date range, right? So you see here, I've got this year, last year, with on hand. So show me how I did last year during a time frame, show me how I did this year during a time frame, show me how much I have on hand right now. This does not show you how much you had at the time frame of the first, the last year, last year, just this year. That was confusing. All right, so let's see. Can I show you that is wildly different? All right, so a couple of things, these weekday percent. So if you're looking at your days, right, and trying to figure out when your busiest time / day is for reevaluating if you have the flexibility to be open, this is a graphic representation of where your business is and what the percent of total is on a weekly basis, right? So I ran this wide open, so this means for the history of this data set, 40% of the business is on Sunday, 5% is on Monday, on Tuesday, Wednesday, blah, 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 right? So this is a data set that we build here in Big Hairy Dog, right? So you can, that's why Saturday's small, because we're not usually here on Saturday building our database. Okay. All right, so let me stop and ask if there's any questions to this point so far. So anything that you haven't seen yet that you have questions about? Okay, anything at all? Okay, nobody in the chat, nobody in the questions. Okay, let's see. Okay, looking back through my questions, see if there's anything that I haven't answered, but it doesn't appear that I have. Okay, so the other thing that we usually cover here, okay, is a little bit about how to move things around in Crystal, just so you can see. We also can cover what to do if you want to make a copy of a specific report. So in the example here, associate summary, right? So I set up a filter for this so that when you run it, it runs last month. Okay, but let's say I'm multi-store and I want to have a version of this that runs for store 1, one that runs for store 2, one that runs for store 3. Now I can't do that unless I make multiple copies of this report, okay, and set filters specifically for store 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I'm going to walk through that and show you how that's possible. All right, so the first thing that you need to know, okay, is what's the name of the report file, right? So up here, if you look at this, see where it says report path summary RPT underscore S5 underscore associate underscore summary.rpt. All right, so all that is shorthand for this is the associate summary report, okay, and they put a number on it so you can tell one from the other. Okay, but what we're going to do is we're going to do what we call register this report, okay, and make a copy of it so that we can make this one run for store 1 and make a second copy that can run for store 2. Okay, so what you do, okay, is you click this register report, okay, and that's going to clear out this central box here, and you're going to give it a name. Okay, so we're going to say sales. We're going to spell it right this time. And then it's associate summary. We're just fine here. Okay, associate. Okay, so I'm going to give it a different name. I'm going to leave it in the summary directory. Okay, and I'm going to point it right at the same associate summary file. Right. So I'm going to make a copy of that file in the summary directory. Okay, I'm going to name it associate 1, and then I have to do what we call register the report. Okay, which means any place where this says lookup, right? I have to tell it what field to look the data up in. So this is a little tedious. So I'm going to warn you guys. And I'm just going to whip through this. If you're interested in learning how to do this, we have some tutorials, or the best thing is to have a trainer walk you through doing this and take a few notes, because what I'm doing here is the fields could be different depending on the report that you're looking for, and it's not immediately obvious like this kit flag. I happen to know that this is, you can just get to it by doing that. But when you do SBS, if you don't know that that means subsidiaries, then if you don't have a place to look it up, you're kind of stuck. Okay, so now when you're registering a report that already exists, you can take a picture, right, of the fields the way they are, so that you have a fighting chance of being able to create these. These ones that are UDF 3 and 4 here, these are inventory UDFs. Unless you had looked previously, you wouldn't necessarily know that. Okay. Oops, oh, that's wrong. Okay. UDF 4. Okay, so I'm getting there. Discount. Okay. This one has a lot of lookups in it, so I apologize. This probably wasn't the best choice. Okay, class. Subclass. right, region, okay, district. All right, and so the rest of these are all employee UDFs. Okay, let me see how many there are. I may just assign them all to the same one to save some time. Let's say, okay. Okay, I'm just going to assign these all to the same one. We wouldn't normally do this, but no need to drag you through all of this. It's not absolutely necessary. Almost done. All right, so now I should be able to save this. Okay, so now if I look at my reports list, here I've got a Sales Associate 1, right, and Sales Associate Summary. So if I look at this filter here, okay, I can say this I want to run for my month to date. That's a long date, sorry. Change the short date to month and month ago, like I did for the other one. Okay, 1. All right, and then the reason we're doing this is so that I can have a store. So where's my store? Okay, so I can run 1 for San Francisco. Okay, and then this filter up here, all right, if I change that and store, okay, let's say this one is Chicago. So I have my filter set. I have 2 different versions of the same report. Okay, and now if I go to groups, okay, I can say I have my original one that's going to run for Chicago. If I go to here, then I have to find my second one on here, and it's probably at the bottom. Just see here, Sales Associate Summary. Where to go? Okay, Sales Associate Summary. Okay, I did something wrong because I can't see it. All right, so let me exit out of here, thinking maybe I need to reread this. Here we go. Okay, so reports and then groups. Okay, and then if I go to monthly and I say summaries and I say find me the report, there it is. Okay, so if I double click that, that goes up here above the line, so now I've got both of them. Okay, and then if I run this now, okay, it's going to run all 4 of those reports and yuck them up to the screen, so we'll wait for that. Okay, so here's the sales receipt journal. I'm just going to close that Here's my on hand. I'm going to close that. And so here's my sales associate summary for one store. Okay, I'm going to close that. Okay, and here it is for the second store. I guess we didn't do that well in the second store. Okay, but hopefully you get the drift, right? You can take existing reports, make a copy of them, register them if you go through that tedious little thing, okay, which we'd be happy to help you with until you learn it. It's pretty simple, just tedious. And you can create multiple versions of the reports. So that, and the only reason you would do this is so you could save the filters. If you needed to do anything else to the report, i.e. change the way it looks, add a field, subtract a field, change the way it sorts, then all of that is in Crystal. Okay, so this, like if I wanted to make a version of this report and I didn't want anybody to see the cost, okay, then I would use Crystal, right, to, that's going to be ugly. Let's see. All right, well, we'll just take these off, right? I'm going to just remove these here. I'm not going to save it so I don't blow my report completely to smithereens. Right, so Crystal's the only way that I can get those off of there, okay? And then I would save this either as my report summary 1 or my report summary in general, and now nobody would have cost on it. And Crystal Reports Writer is the only way that you can do this. Okay, so if you have something simple like that that you want done, you can send us an email and we can drop it into Crystal really quick. And then if we're replacing an existing report, drop it back in. If we want it re-registered so that we don't cover up your existing reports, then we can either show you how to do that or do it for you. Okay. All right, so something else about the reports. Okay, if you are multi-store, you have these reports, or let's talk about user stuff first, right? So each of these reports comes out of the box with sysadmin permission. So not everybody needs to have access to all the reports. Okay, so part of the when you're deciding who gets what, okay, is this access level. Okay, and so I just click the edit button. That allows me to change the access level. So you have 1 through 4 and sysadmin. Okay, so you can decide if you have POS people that just need one report, then you change that report, okay, to a 4, let's say. Okay, and then in Retail Pro, okay, in your employee permission group, okay, so under employee management and in groups, there is a, let's see, we'll use the POS group, right? There is a spot, okay, for reports and what reports that a person can have, that this user group has access to. So by default, the POS group doesn't have any rights, but that doesn't mean you can't give them those rights. So if I said access level 4 people, right, need to see that cost change, okay, then if I check this box, then they'll be able to run that report. When they log in using their login, they log in using their login, that's the only report they're going to be able to see, or any other report that has access level 4 on it. Okay, so when you look at this report, right, that happened to be like the cost change or whatever, so I need to see who belongs to this group so I can log in as the new user. Have no idea what new user's password is, but we're going to try it just so we show you how this works. Okay, probably just password. Nope. Okay, so since I don't know what new user's password is, I'm just going to change it. All right, so new user, view. All right, so now all right, so now that I know what the login is, so when I go to reports, okay, that was a summary, right? Okay, so done something wrong. Oh, I think I know what. That person belongs to more than one group. Okay, so I'm going to come back in here. We're going to say this report system. So that was a summary report. So I have to give them access to summary reports and then to access level 4. So log out, log back in. Oh, well, that was sysadmin. That's not what I wanted to do. Okay, sorry. Okay. All right, so now all I should see here is the one report that I changed to level 4. Okay, so that's the way that you can control who can see this, right? So you don't have to be afraid about people poking around where they can see margin and so forth, right? If they need access to specific reports, you change the level on the report, change the permissions, right, in their user group, and then your reports are secure as long as they don't know how to log in as other users. Okay. I think that's all that was on my agenda. Okay. So I can open it up to see if anybody's got any final questions. There is actually a PDF, right, that shows samples of most of our custom reports. So if you're interested in getting that and you don't have this already, you can shoot us an email and we can email you just the PDF so that you can look at these reports. So there's samples of what they do. And believe there should be, this one doesn't have any brief descriptions in it, but we have a version that does have brief descriptions. So if you're interested in that, let us know. Okay, let me see if I have any other questions. Doesn't look like it. Okay, so Josie just sent in the question, a cashier is the person running the sale, an associate is who does the sale unless it's changed. Okay, so yes, so whoever is assigned as the the person who's logged in is by default the cashier, and you have the ability to change the associate for the whole receipt or line by line. Okay, and so depending on what performance report you're talking about, I do believe that that has been corrected. Okay, so let me go back in here. Are you talking about the performance report that's the BHD custom one, or the one that is here? Let's see. Here, reports. In the summary, there's an associate performance right here. Okay, and so John, I believe that is associate now, but I couldn't swear to it without testing it. So let's say look at this. Sales count, units sold, blah, blah, blah. And the way that I would check it out is there's also a cashier performance report. I know for sure that one's cashier, right? So if we look at that for the same time frame, there should be some differences. And I am seeing cashier 58. So I'm seeing some small differences here. The sysadmin sales count's different. Okay, it was 52 on the other one and 58 on this one. So that would lead me to believe that the associate performance is actually reporting associate in this version. So if you have an older version where it's still reporting cashier, let us know, and we'll see what we can do about that. So not knowing what version of Retail Pro you're on, you know, I wouldn't be able to tell you for sure. You got a brand new computer, but do you have new, what company are you with, Josie? Flip-flops, okay. Yeah, so you guys do have a lot of custom reports that came from your previous your previous distributor. So it would be hard for me to speak to whether or not that particular thing is fixed. Okay, but if you, I'm not sure who we could have follow up with you, because I know our trainer Jeff here works with your corporate on reports. So maybe the best thing to do is to you know, email us directly and attach a copy of the report so we can look at it, and we'll see if we can follow up with that. And as far as it, you know, being backwards, so if the report says associate performance, it should be the person who's responsible for, who gets credit for the sale. That's how we usually say it, right? And the cashier can just be a person that enters the sale. So, you know, the terminology over the course of, you know, Retail Pro's existence has always been cashier is the person who's logged in, associate is the person who the sales are attributed to, or who gets credit for it, or who gets the commission, or whatever. Okay, and so has average unit sale. Average units per sale. Yes, it did. The cashier one did. Let me just run that again here. Reports, summary. So cashier performance. This one. Yeah. So average units per sale. Okay, so that's an indication of, you know, how much that cashier is pushing through. Okay. Well, the associate, so you know, her question is, I want to know that same info for associate, right? And so that should be, okay, if you have this report, this should be the person who's responsible for the sale. Okay. Oh, and I see what you're saying. It doesn't have units per transaction on it, right? That's the question. Okay, so final Jeopardy answer there, okay, is we have some versions that do that. If we look at, let's see, this, I can't remember if this one actually has it on here or not. Let's just take a peek. Okay, so that one doesn't have it. It would be easy to add as average transaction dollars. But this one, which is a scary looking report, but this one has units per transaction on it, and this one is associate based. Okay, so that might be hard for you to see. Let me try to zoom it up a little bit. Okay, so this is associate, not cashier. Okay, and it has a lot of statistics on it. Units per transaction, average daily sale. There's a key up here that tells you what it is. It's also, if you're using clock in and out, can show you the same statistics. Percent of total by the hour. It's a pretty intense report. Okay, so or dollars per sale. All right. So did either of these ones, the BHD ones, show what you wanted to see, Josie? Okay. All right. So these reports, right? Depending on if you got a new computer, I don't know if you have a what version of Retail Pro, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4, but these reports, our reports here, should technically work with the latest versions of 9.3, and 9.4. But as I say, we work with your corporate there, and you have some reports already in place, and if those need to be repaired, right, you would have to work through corporate. If you want the BHD reports, I would have to research what it would take to get those to you and make sure that they're compatible with what you're running. So if you want to look at it, send an email in here to service, and I'll tell them to be on the lookout, and we'll try to get you fixed up if these are things that you think you can use. All right. Anybody else have questions? There's one. Okay, so Josie's just answering me. Anybody else? Okay, looks like everybody else is pretty much done. Let me look here. Attendees. All right, so like I said, this is all recorded, right? And so you should get an email back to the email that you logged in with that has a link back to this if you care to review it. It's also posted on our website, so if you didn't get the email, or if you want to review any of the other webinars that we recorded on other subjects, you feel free. It is free to use, and you don't have to log in or anything. You just have to connect to the page and start watching. All right, so thanks very much for your attention. It's been real. There was a lot of information here, and this reports can go on beyond here. And if you wish to explore that, please let us know. Or if you want us to email you the PDF of what our custom reports look like, anything like that, you know where to find us, www.bighairydog.com. You can email service@bighairydog.com or tech@bighairydog.com if you want to follow up. All right, thanks for your attention.